This is an 8-iron and it's a dead shank.
That's the muff. Oh! This has gone left and into the jungle where the elephants go to die.
Two perfect shots, Michael. You got me in the water on one and over the green on the other.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Fifth Major Podcast, episode 4. Today, we're going to be talking about the underachievers and overachievers in the world of golf. Joining me today, we've got Joshua Martin, still in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Also, we've got Rory Murphy from Lenton, Nottingham.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. And also Joshua Wright from Sheffield.
Hi, guys.
And from some shed in southeast London, we have Andrew Fargy joining us back after his Tesco shift in late notice. How are we doing, boys? How's
shout out to Fargy on the front line, during the pandemic.
Yeah, you really
#, heroes.
Yeah. I don't know if you boys saw, it looks like golf might be returning reasonably shortly. Document from the RNA went out saying that putting out the rules for when we're going to go back. What are your boys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, bring golf back, but I have a horrible feeling. I've been reading some very negative journalism about second spikes of this virus, so I feel like the golf could be short-lived, but I'm still was a PGA Tour mid-June return, so by all means, bring it on.
Yeah, I think it's one of the few sports where it's actually feasible because it's not really a contact sport. You don't have to be like in close proximity with other people as long as spectators aren't there.
Yeah,
so I think it could be possible, but we'll see.
Yeah,
We're lucky that go on, you go.
I was listening to a Guardian football podcast, a big rival of ours. There's a little feature on Premier League coming back soon, and then the amount of isolations that each team has to go through before playing each game. And then if one player gets sick, the whole team has to isolate. It's just so logistically improbable. Yeah. Compared to golf, golf is an absolute, walk in the park compared to, team
Quite
sport.
literally.
We're lucky that it will have no long-term effects on the game because unlike I've been reading about cricket and they're thinking about stopping teams even being able to put saliva on the ball and things like that, legalizing ball tampering. I read an article about, but there's nothing like that that's going to affect golf. I mean,
hopefully in 3 years,
it'll
be a distant memory, and golf will just go on as usual.
How is
the only thing
worked on the course in the States, Josh?
Yeah, so not much has changed. A lot of clubs have gone to walking only, so they don't have to clean the carts. And if the club is allowing carts, everybody just takes their own cart. Unless you're living or you're playing with someone that you live with. In that case, if you're living with someone, and one already has it, then you both are going to have it anyway. So
and have you got the cups in that case upside down still?
What's that?
Have you got the cups turned upside down so no one's touching the
yeah, I think most clubs will put something kind of like halfway up in the cup so the ball doesn't go all the way down, so you can kind of just pick it out pretty easily and without touching much. But it'll definitely make the pin rule make more people abide by that. I guess a lot of people will get used to it after this.
The thing with
being able to touch the flag.
When we get back to playing, we might be back out in a couple of weeks, but there's not going to be any competitions going ahead. I couldn't imagine because of this thing where if they raise the cups, then you really have like a qualifying round in those circumstances. So for competitions to start going ahead and golf getting back to normal, I mean, I don't know how long we're looking into the future.
Yeah, the RNA document said that no competitions are going to be happening to begin with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I love golf is just the competition mainly. Honestly, I'm not too fussed about just going out and just playing. I think the best part of the game is actually going out and competing and having a scorecard in your hand. That's kind of a bit of a downer for me. it's a bit annoying. I think it might be all the way into next year really before we actually start playing properly again.
Fargy's going to be stuck on 6 for a while then.
I'd like to tell you boys I'm actually on 5.
That's brilliant, mate. Well done. Well done.
So they're allowing you on the Gecko tour now?
More to come.
A little bit of smooth talking.
Yeah.
Play off 6, but actually off 2.
Rory, you had a few things to say from the think tank from
last week.
Podcast.
I just wanted to listen back on the pod. Big thanks to everyone for we could leave out Bryson DeChambeau from a full hour-long discussion of golf. I really appreciated that one.
Strong effort.
And to follow up on my bounce back ability skepticism, I was getting ready for a big research period on this to prove myself right. I looked up the 2020 bounce back ability standings. I only had to look at the first name of the list to have the foundation to build my case. Who wants to guess who number 1 on the PGA Tour and bounce back ability is this year?
Willett.
A man by the name of Janawatanand.
Oh,
he's on the PGA Tour.
Oh, he's a great player.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. And then I think, okay, so research on bounce back ability and my skepticism on it. First thing I do, 2020 bounce back ability, PGA Tour stats. Number 1 on the list, my Exhibit A, Janawatanand.
Well said.
Doesn't even have a PGA Tour card, and he leads this stat. Okay, and a little bit below the surface then. Wes Roach, 8th. John Huh, top 20. Hudson Swafford, top 20. Maverick Neely, top 20. Just a lot of players who feature very well in bounce back ability and then have plummeted in the FedEx Cup standings. I thought, maybe this works. Maybe this works the other way too, and the results were equally shocking. Now, Josh, I wish I was there to restrain you in your chair, but where do you reckon Sung Jae Im is in the bounce back ability on the PGA Tour?
Well, since it's such an awful stat, I'd imagine he could be quite low. 189.
He's 101.
That's pretty average.
Wait, I'm not done yet. Colin Morikawa, where do you reckon he is?
No, 123.
176. Victor Hovland, 178. Fleetwood, 182. Patrick Reed, 205. And to give a shout out to my boy from last week, Aaron Wise, he's 151st in the FedEx Cup, but 8th in bounce back ability. So,
wow.
So Sung Jae Im actually ranks pretty highly there. So I mean, he must be an incredible player.
Yeah.
Oh, have you know, Rory, that to assess the helpfulness of a stat, you have to look at the whole group of players. It would be wrong to just pick out certain examples.
I'm just saying, I've presented my case, and until proven otherwise, we are no longer advocates of the bounce back ability.
So you've picked out the anomalies in the bounce back ability stat, and
we'll see where those guys are in 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
It's a long game.
Could be top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Well, I thought since we've been hyping Im Morikawa and Hovland in particular, so highly, and we haven't said a word about Jazz. Our boy
He
Jazz.
was actually my first reserve.
We'll just call him Jazz.
Yeah.
Jazzy J.
Bother ourselves.
Jazzy J.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right, lads. Thank you very much for that, Rory. I'm sure me and J-Mart, as fierce advocates of bounce back ability, will be coming back at you next week.
Well, I don't want to hear bounce back ability one more time this week.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. Right, lads. Let's just jump straight into it. So we'll go around the table and we'll talk about overachievers first. So, J-Mart, do you want to kick us off with your very first overachiever?
Yeah, sure. So I went. I kind of went under the assumption that we were basing overachieving and underachieving off mostly like physical abilities and how they progress through their junior college and onto the professional career. So I went with Jim Furyk with mine. He's a guy who grew up in Pennsylvania. His dad was actually, believe it or not, a PGA professional. Although you wouldn't think it based off his swing. His 26 professional wins, 17 on the PGA Tour. His lone major coming at the 2003 U.S. Open at Olympia Fields. He's just a very consistent player overall. He has 16 top fives in majors, 5 more top fives at the Player Championship, and 9 more top fives at WGCs over the years. 7 times has he finished top 5 on the PGA Tour money lists, and he's 3rd all-time in career earnings and on the PGA Tour behind Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson with just over $71 million in career earnings. So it's pretty incredible career. He grew up in Pennsylvania, and I think he had an all right junior career, but it wasn't stellar. Funny story, my brother and his roommates, freshman year in college, they saw Jim Furyk on the streets in Chapel Hill before a UNC football game, and so they just like approached him and struck up a conversation with him, and he actually said that he'd always wanted to go to UNC when he was in high school, and he never got a scholarship offer, so he ended up going to Arizona, where he had a pretty solid career. I couldn't find much about his amateur career, although he did win the team national championship his senior year in 1990 with Arizona, University of Arizona.
Why did he say he wanted to go to UNC?
I think he grew up on the East Coast, so it was probably a little closer to home, and down south where the weather was better. And at the time, UNC had a really strong golf team. I think they came in 2nd at nationals in the early 90s. So I think they had built up a pretty good reputation over the years.
Didn't make the grade though. Last swing.
What's that? Yeah, I don't know. There's a funny recruiting story about Mike Furyk. His father is the PGA Tour pro. So I think a college coach came to take Mike, his father, and his mother out to dinner one night. And I guess after like 15 minutes into dinner, they started talking, and the coach was like, finally, was like, all right, let's just get into it. Like, let's talk about golf. I can't wait for your son to get down to our university so I can change that swing. And Mike's father was like, great, that's just what I wanted to hear. And the coach goes, well, yeah, you know it needs to be changed, right? And Mike said, no, and I don't ever want it to change. Yeah. But thank you for eliminating yourself out of the recruiting process, and also thanks for dinner.
And that's why I went to Arizona.
My son won't be coming to your university. So, yeah, I think his dad. What's that?
These are Jim's parents with Jim.
Jim's parents, Mike, and I don't know his mother's name was.
For Jim's college golf, yeah.
Yeah, for Jim's college golf, yeah. So I'd watched a lot of videos, and apparently, like, Jim growing up didn't really know he had like a unique swing, because his dad grew up watching the likes of Arnold Palmer. Who's another one? Forgot the other guy, but he grew up idolizing these golfers with unique swings, so he just thought it was normal. And they always like focused on feel rather than like technique and video, so he didn't really swing it or see a swing a whole lot growing up, but they just developed a bond through their relationship. He actually kind of pushed Jim towards other sports growing up, but eventually Jim just really wanted to try golf, and he had a knack for it. So yeah, he also a few other stats. He won the FedEx Cup in 2010, earning him the PGA Tour and PGA Player of the Year. And who could forget his 58 at the Travelers Championship?
Of course,
making it the lowest score in the PGA Tour history.
So you're basing your argument on his swing, are you?
Yeah.
His swing, his physical, I guess, abilities. He's not like the longest hitter.
Very slender.
Swing's not the most appealing. He's not the most attractive guy.
Right.
This was sounding a lot like a World Golf Hall of Fame application until that.
Yeah. No, I mean he's a pretty incredible guy. Like he's one of the best. He's been one of the best players on the PGA Tour for the past 25 years. He could have had a few more majors. I mean, we talked about 16 top fives in majors. And we all remember the 2012 U.S. Open, that Olympic club that he kind of blew away, playing last 3, 2 over par. But he definitely had some chances to capitalize on more majors.
PGA's Swing Your Swing campaign.
The thing with Jim Furyk, I always see him as a little bit of a, like, when the going got tough, he always just seemed to miss out. I think he came second 31 times on tour or something. And like whenever I think of him, and I think of his Ryder Cup performances, his Ryder Cup record was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I think he lost 20. He's lost 20 games, won 10 something, maybe drawn a few more.
Yeah.
And he always seems to lose on 18 and miss like a 6-foot putt every time.
He's vice captain for this Ryder Cup, I believe.
This is going back a long way, but I feel like the last time, I feel like he's imploded in majors quite recently. I think I remember him snap up and won off 16 at Bethpage, maybe when Lucas Glover won, or was it Olympic when?
Was Olympic.
Was that Olympic
when? 2012.
Olympic with Webb Simpson.
Yeah. He had he was technically like even or tied for the lead going in the last 3 with 16 and 17 being par 5s. And he bogeyed 16, parred 17, and then bogeyed 18. So
a great performance at the Players as well this year when he stiffed his shot onto the 18th green at the Players, and came second to Rory McIlroy by a shot, I think. And McIlroy played really well down the stretch there. That was like an unbelievable performance at his age as well. So
it sounds like we don't have a bad word to say about Jim Furyk. So there's no.
I love the swing.
I've got a lot of bad stuff to say about the swing.
Yeah.
So his swing isn't the best. He's one of the shortest hitters on tour.
Yeah, I feel like overachiever could be a bit harsh. I think he seems to have got a serious career there.
Do you think if Jim Furyk burst onto the scene now, he would do as well?
No, I don't.
Probably not. Just because the way that the tours change of the years, kind of favoring longer, less accurate hitters.
Yeah, he'd do well.
He is. Yeah, he's led like naturally since he hits it very short, he leads the driving accuracy category very often. But I don't know. I was just thinking like from his swinging abilities. He didn't have like the most exciting like amateur career, but I don't know. He's just always grinded out there on tour.
Made the most of his abilities, hasn't he?
And the
Right,
results.
we'll move around the table now.
We park Jim Furyk there.
Yeah, we'll park Jim Furyk there for now. Josh Wright, who is your overachiever?
Okay, so I've kind of gone on a similar route to Josh in a way. I've gone for a guy called Kenny Perry, who he has won 14 times on the PGA Tour and 9 times on the Champions Tour. So he's had a pretty incredible career, really. He's got 4 senior majors as well. So I mean, it's a great resume. And if you look at his golf swing, I mean, I know Jim Furyk's is famously bad, but if you look at this guy is seriously not much better. He's absolutely awful. And if you go through his career, I think he won his first event when he was 31 years old. So little bit of a late bloomer. And then I think by his 40th birthday, he'd got 3 wins on tour. So he's probably thinking, yeah, done all right in my career, 3 wins, be quite happy with that. Never really competed at the top of the game. And then suddenly he just went on a mad one for some reason and won like 11 times in his 40s, including 5 wins at the age of 47 or 48. So, I mean, if you think most golfers at that age are just, falling off the cliff, they're getting ready for the Champions Tour. This guy was having the best years of his life at that age. Also lost out in a playoff in 2009 at the age of 48 in the Masters. I think that was when Cabrera won.
I swear there were 10 people in that playoff as well.
I think it was 3. It was Cabrera, Perry, one other guy, I can't remember now.
Good Masters. It was a good Masters.
It was a great Masters, yeah. I think he also lost in the playoff in the PGA Championship. So, I mean, the guy could have had 2 majors pretty easy. And if you just look at some of the names that have won less on the PGA Tour than him, like Jason Day, Scott, Duval, Luke Donald, Rose, Westwood, Faldo, all these guys, I think it'd be fair to say would be more talented than him, but don't have the careers.
He's definitely winning.
Chad Campbell.
Maybe the underappreciated reward.
I think definitely underappreciated. If you put one major on his resume, that's Hall of Fame straight in. He's walking straight in there. And you think of Kenny Perry, and I don't think you'd think a Hall of Fame.
I think of Kenny Perry. I think of Todd Hamilton's estranged half-brothered.
Yeah, similar players. One a bit more successful there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Moving on to my pick for overachieving.
Yeah, no complaints with Kenny Perry.
Oh, by the way, as well, one thing I forgot to mention. He won Memorial 3 times, and we know the best players in the world win at Memorial.
Patrick Cantlay's won Memorial. If you want to
only Tiger Woods has won more at Memorial than Kenny Perry.
Martin Keimer came 3rd there last year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Danny Willett hasn't won there.
I'm backing a lot of horses for when coronavirus ends. One will come through.
Right, on to my overachiever. Yorkshire, born and bred, just like yourself, Josh. He is 2012 BMW International Open winner in Cologne, 2014 Nedbank Golf Challenge winner, 2015 Omega European Masters winner, 2016 Masters champion, and 2019 winner at Wentworth in the BMW PGA. He needs absolutely no introduction.
No introduction.
It is, of course. Also, his brother won most outspoken brother of a tour player. It is Danny Willett. Danny Willett won pretty much all there is to win on the European Tour, as I just described. DP World Tour champion of 2018. And obviously he's got a green jacket. There's not many players who've got a green jacket. I'll just list you a couple of names that haven't got a green jacket. Lee Trevino, Greg Norman, Johnny Miller, and of course, one man who I think will never get a green jacket, Rory McIlroy.
Statement.
Yeah, so that's Danny Willett. Why is he an overachiever? Was world #1 amateur at one point, played in the 2005 Walker Cup. But really, this guy's a pretty average golfer, if we're being honest. So to see how low he really could go, following his 2016 win at the Masters, he had one of the biggest hangovers golf has ever seen. He lost his PGA Tour card in 2017. In 2018, he started with 9 missed cuts in the 2018 season and 1 withdrawal. And he slipped as low as 462 in the world. Current number 462 in the world rankings is a man from Thailand who
Is it our boy Jazz?
It's not Jazz Janawatana. I think Jazzy J is a bit further up the list. But just to put that into perspective, Luke Donald, who's been in the wilderness for however long, is 369th at the moment. And so that just shows how far this guy slipped down the rankings, which I think personally was a true reflection of his golfing ability. Not true reflection, but when he went on ability alone, that's how far he could stoop. Whereas those guys, Lee Trevino, Greg Norman, Johnny Miller, Rory McIlroy, will never be like anywhere near 462nd in the world. Yet this guy's won a Masters. They haven't.
The greatest player of all time, though, Tiger Woods, got into the thousands, didn't he?
That's because he wasn't playing any tournaments.
Yeah, he wasn't playing tournaments. This guy was trying, missed 9 cuts at 12 starts. He did withdraw once, though, for a back injury in one of those 12 starts in 20.
We'll call that 8 missed cuts.
He was probably just in a strop. His back was probably absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think Lee Trevino was one of the other golfers that Mike Furyk used to watch growing up. So that inspired some of Jim's swing.
I can see that. I can see that. To be fair.
Not in a good way.
I was touching on it earlier. I love England's hope of a Masters champion post Faldo. Gone through Westwood, gone through Rose, gone through Donald, and then Danny Willett rises from the ashes.
As well, I think that 2016 Masters win. Just a note on that. Jordan Spieth had that in the palm of his hands and completely let it go.
I think Danny. There was. That's why I don't like the Charles Schwartzel Masters win. It's like no one even knew Danny Willett was in contention. It was on 14.
Danny Willett didn't know he was in contention until he looked at the leadboard when he walked onto the 16th tee.
That helped him big time, didn't it? He was just having a stroll around Augusta with Westwood, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden,
it certainly wasn't a wire to wire win. Like we're not going to.
No. I'm ashamed to say that night I actually, when Speith finished, I think the front nine, I actually turned it off and went to revise for some A-level exam or something, and then turned on BBC Sport like, I don't know, 90 minutes later, and suddenly Willett was at the top of the leaderboard, and I was like, oh god, I better turn this on really quick.
On the back nine at Sunday at Augusta. And
exactly. It doesn't start until the back nine, and I missed all of that.
A Yorkshireman walked off with a green jacket.
Yeah. Exactly.
Who was the last Englishman?
I missed a good bit.
Who was the last Englishman to win the Masters before Willett?
Faldo, I reckon.
Oh, Faldo, okay.
Yeah.
It was a long wait. It was a long wait for the Queen.
But Danny Willett, big shout out to Danny Willett, because I'm sure one day we'll be getting him on the pod.
A great chance now.
Yeah. I think he's overachieved because of what he's got between the ears, and I'm sure I'd love to look at his bounce back ability stats.
I'll get that for you for next week.
If we can, that'd be amazing, because I think his mental game's obviously top.
I feel obliged to fight his corner a little bit here.
Yeah, he's got a green jacket, and he's won everything the European Tour has to win.
I think as well on the rut as well when he I think you obviously have that kind of brief. You give him 6 months after the rest of the season after winning a major. I think he went through some pretty significant swing changes after that as well, which he did. To give credit to him, like you got to aspiring to stay there, stay at the top when you get there.
Yeah.
I think it's quite. I know Josh, you have huge reservations about him as a bloke, but. I think
we're definitely not getting him on now.
And now because he was trending toward that Masters win didn't come out of nowhere. He's having a great season.
No, I think when he won it, he was ninth in the world, I think.
Yeah, and he's had 2 or 3 years in the doldrums, and now he's back winning again. So I think
makes you wonder why he would change his swing.
Danny Willett put some respect on that name.
Yeah, and he was in contention for our European Ryder Cup team on the pod first episode. So that just shows how far he's come.
I think you've got to give him some slack. If you win the Masters, especially how he won it and what happened on that back nine, I mean, it must be pretty easy to just drop your guard down. I mean, you've swum the ocean there, haven't you? By doing that, he's got invite to Augusta for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
The exemptions that come with it, he's pretty much got a 10-year exemption to all majors, I think, or whatever.
I love the idea that other lads have until Wikipedia who he is on the way to the Champions dinner.
Yeah, true.
Still, right, let's move on. Andrew Fargy, who is your overachiever?
I've gone with a 4-time PGA Tour winner, the 2011 PGA Championship winner in Keegan Bradley. Now, Keegan Bradley in my head screams. I could just think of him spitting on the golf course, a yippy backswing. Yeah, he had a career high of 12th in the world, 2-time Ryder Cup team player, and has over 25 million in PGA Tour earnings. So obviously between 2011 and 2012, he had some really good golf. He was playing very well, and much like Danny Willett, after that he completely caved in. I just don't think he could handle it on the big stage. Didn't win between 2015 and 2017. In 2015, he finished 114th on the PGA money list.
That's quite good in a way.
Well, yeah, he was almost being able to grind out a little bit of cash. Maybe he was selecting the right events to play in. But he was trying to work on his swing, I think. There was a lot of talk about him standing over the ball. He talked in an interview about not being able to, I think he was second guessing himself on the takeaway. All this waggling of the club.
Yeah.
And I think it just got to his head.
He seems like a very nervous character, doesn't he? The way he twisting his club, spitting, and then he creeps up onto the ball, doesn't he? Like some kind of tiger hunting.
Really jittery guy, isn't he? Really kind of nervous look. Yeah, as you said.
Definitely not got a brain surgeon.
I think
you can never trust people that use Cleveland gloves either. I always have a rule of thumb on that one.
Yeah.
He really struggled with the lost putter ban as well. I think that's worth mentioning. I think as soon as you had to use the short putter, he just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Same with quite a few of them. But yeah, he seems to have got it back a little bit. He always seems to threaten.
He won in 2018.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think he almost came back, and now he's almost repeating his disappearance.
Yeah.
There's a definite lack of conviction in his game, isn't there? There's no, like we talk about, John Rahm just gets up to it and hits it. Similar with Rory, but caveman golf. There's a definitely bit of overthinking going on there.
Yeah. So I was doing my research earlier, and I came across some great contenders for the golf's best disappearance act. Tim Clark, Graham DeLatte, and Ryo Ishikawa were my three boys on that one. Just some for you.
Ryo was the next big thing, wasn't he? I was actually watching highlights of McIlroy's win at Wells Fargo in 2010, and I think Jim Nantz was saying that same day Ishikawa had shot 58 on the Japanese tour, and he was saying that how those two were like the rising stars in golf and were going to be on our TV screens for the next 20 years. And I thought, that
surprised no one picked him.
Maybe that's an upcoming pod, the Madeline McCann of golf.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are we on again? Keegan Bradley. I think he'd have to go a long way to complete a disappearance act of those proportions. But yeah, I think he's, aside from obviously winning his first major winning his first ever major he plays in, there's not a lot to him, I don't think. Kind of arrived and then just faded very quickly.
Yeah, has done very well for himself, which is why I've got him as an overachiever.
Yeah, I think that's definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll stand by you on that one for you.
Rory,
who is your overachiever?
Yeah, I think I was saying to you boys earlier, I feel, especially considering the way my own game has gone recently, I do feel I feel a bit tongue in cheek going after seasoned tour professionals for overachieving. So I won't fly too close to the sun on this one, but I've gone for Jordan Spieth, 4-time major champion, 3-time major champion, one short of the Grand Slam. And I just think, I remember when he came out, I think as I was saying to you boys earlier, my coach at the time said, he's not that good. Like one day he's just going to wake up and he's going to be so much worse than whatever he is now. He's just riding this wave. I think you boys were talking about it last week as well, about him. Like even when he was winning all those majors, he was missing lots of cuts, hitting lots of terrible, terrible shots. And just felt like he's just unstoppable. Like obviously he's got that mental resilience we talk about, but I think at some stage that was always going to catch up with him. And I'm a huge fan of Speith. I hope this rut isn't permanent, but I can't help but think like he may never get back to winning, or being as prolific as he was over that kind of 4 or 5 year period.
Yeah, I know that 2015 year was just a joke, wasn't it? I remember, just watching him, and I absolutely hated him. Like I quite like him now because he's not very good anymore. But in 2015, I hated him because he, like, how many putts did he hold from like 30 feet? And he was just shanking it around most golf courses, and then like chipping on, and then just knocking a putt in for par. It was just ridiculous. And like you say, Rory, I don't think he was actually that good. And I kept saying to everybody, this guy's the luckiest player on the planet. Like he cannot continue to be this lucky. and these putts just keep going in.
I think I remember I was watching his last win was obviously it was the 2015 British Open.
2017.
2017, yeah.
2017, sorry.
And then DJ destroyed his career.
Yeah, but I remember watching that with one of my mates who played that course that year, and I think it was 3 or 4 of his tee shots on the back 9. He was saying to me, when he played the course, if you hit it over there, you didn't even go looking for it. There was there was chest high grass and bushes, and he's got people to go.
He made that.
I think he missed it so bad that he missed it like on the other side of.
Stand.
He was
on the other side of the
practice
trouble
range,
on
wasn't
certain.
I think on that same 9, there were a good few occasions where he hit into the galleries, behind the galleries, and managed to find some nice lies and make 4. But
yeah, that probably wasn't his best.
Yeah, as I said, I feel bad. I feel it's a bit rich coming from me that calling Jordan Speed an overachiever, but I certainly think he was riding a decently sized wave for a few years. I think that wave has come crashing down dramatically.
Who's to blame him?
100%.
I'd ride that wave if I could.
As well.
2 perfect shots, Michael.
2 perfect shots.
You
Michael.
put me in the water.
I think I may go back to the think tank and get some stats, but I feel like his career has gone downhill since the marriage.
Oh,
Really? That would be.
I think Smiley Kaufman also perfectly fits the stencil for that stat too.
In fact, I think there needs to be a study done by the 5th Major podcast group about how relationships with a female affect your golf game, both at the amateur and professional level. Because I know, not to name any names, but I know a couple of people very close to me that their game has dramatically fallen off the cliff. They become romantically involved with a woman.
How about McIlroy is a prime example of that when he done Wozniacki in 2014 and he was having a shocker and then won at Wentworth that week and then won 2 majors in the summer and a WGC.
Didn't McIlroy effectively jilt her at the altar?
Yeah, they I think he got cold feet when they handed out the wedding invitations or something.
Yeah, so it was very last minute.
Yeah.
He went cold turkey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that they actually were engaged.
Oh yeah, they were very
Dang. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, was it an upgrade? But that's the big.
That's for another podcast.
I think. I think if we were a paper, then I think Josh Martin would be so far from the gossip column, and I think I'd be so far from anything important.
Right, boys. We'll move on to our underachievers now. J-Mart, you fire us off, please.
All right. So going with a kid who grew up in Augusta, Georgia, just across the fence from Amen Corner at Augusta Country Club. A guy that needs no further introduction, Charles Howell III.
Okay.
So yeah, this guy, he grew up in Augusta. I heard stories about him as a kid, jumping across the fence at Amen Corner to go play Augusta National, and I think he had a really amazing junior career. Got recruited by Oklahoma State, one of the premier golf programs in college golf, and he went on to have a really pretty amazing college career after he played in a PGA Tour event when he was 17 and another one the following year when he was 18. I think his biggest achievement in amateur golf was when he won the individual and team championship in 2000 with Oklahoma State his senior year, winning with a record finish of 23 under par. I think a record that still holds today. Pretty impressive stuff. He was PGA Tour Rookie of the Year the following year, 2001, and his second year on tour he finished tied for 9th on the money list. At that point, I think there was a lot of hype about Charles Howell, how he was going to be the next young gun to kind of challenge Tiger for his reign as being one of the greats in golf at that time. And that's something that just never really materialized. As we see, he's won 3 times on tour. Strikingly, he's finished 16-time runner-up finisher, and 9 times has he finished 3rd on tour. I think technically he's pretty sound. I remember as a as a kid, one of my coaches used to always pull up Charles Howell and put his swing next to mine, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And I didn't really know much about Charles because he just didn't like ever really turn out to be like a extremely well-known player, although he's been on tour for 20 years. He's finished every year since 2001. He's made over $1 million on tour, which is pretty impressive. He's kept his tour card that many years consecutively. His best finish in the majors tied for 10th though. I think overall you could say he's just kind of underachieved. He's
Why do you
known
think
for
that is, Josh? Point anything.
I mean, everything about his game's like pretty good. He's known as being one of the longest guys on tour, pound for pound. He's a pretty small guy, but still gets it out there pretty far. Everything about his game's like pretty good. He's just unlucky. I mean, you see the number of second and third place finishes that he's had. All it takes is like a break or two to change that into a win, and he could have 10, 15 wins on tour, and that could have really jump-started his career. But
wasn't to be.
I don't know. It could be a mental thing as well. Never really played well in the biggest moments.
Mentally,
the major championships. I mean, tied for 10th being your best finish in a major. Yeah, I think probably mental game. He is proud of his consistency on tour, which he has shown. I mean, he stayed on tour after all these years.
$1.2 million for 12 years in a row, or even could be more.
Wait, for more than that. If he finished, sorry, did you say?
Yeah, no, 20 years in a row. He's won. Yeah, 20 years in a row. He's finished with over $1 million.
He's the money-making machine.
He screams of a guy to me who just, it's kind of the nature of the game, like with the money that's involved now. But if you can get off to a decent start in your career, then all of a sudden you're kind of made for life and you just become comfortable. And back in the day when they were playing 40 years ago, you needed to win to actually make a good living. When nowadays Charles Howell is just the epitome of somebody who can rock up, finish T20 at Phoenix, pick up 50 grand, and then move on to the next week. And like he's got a great life there, and there's actually there's no need to push himself to actually go and win anything. And
he never features in events we watch, does he? I feel like he never up there in the Memorial.
He's so frequently, like you say, Rory, backdoor top 10, backdoor top 5. So he'll creep up on a Sunday with a 69 and finish 7th, and pick up a big check and move on.
Yeah,
I think his personality too is just not like he's like very well liked and respected guy on tour, but he's just not like a flamboyant character who would attract a lot of attention. So I mean, I could have something to do with it as well.
I feel like at this stage though, I feel like he's so underrated he could be overrated. I feel like everyone's like, oh, but what about Charles Howell? Like he's that good. He's like, look how well he swings. Look how much money he's made over the years. But and then when you go and look at his stats, you hope to find, oh, like holy fuck, this guy's actually won like 10 times, but he just literally does nothing. He's really got
that's like top tens, and
he could not have gotten less out of like how much people appreciate him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's very well respected. He's just I think he has underachieved, especially coming out of college. People thought he was going to be like the next Tiger, and in some aspects, I think Jack Nicklaus even like backed him to be the name to compete against Tiger and potentially take his reign, but that just unfortunately never happened for him. But I think he still seems grateful for like where he's at, and I think he is.
Sure, he's grateful for his
like
bank
content.
account, like 40 million.
Yeah, I think he's pretty content with where he's at, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is where we give the honourable mentions to Jim Liu and Ty Tryon.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Ty Tryon, he I was looking up some stats about him the other day, and he turned pro when he was 16. Competed in his first PGA Tour event when he was 16, and I think he made the cut, actually.
He got his tour card when he was still in 2 years ago in school. He was in year 12.
Yeah, I think 16 or 17. got his tour card for a year, and then I think he lost it.
Yeah, I think last I had a coach he used to know, and the last I heard from him, he had a kid and he was working on some range in the middle of America somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and a big shout out to his one win on the NGA Hooters tour. It used to be considered a major back in the day.
That sounds like where we should be, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Charles Howell definitely.
Yeah, he goes in.
Not got the results to back up the talk or the talent, I think you could say.
Yeah. Right, let's move on, boys. Josh Wright, who's your underachiever?
Okay, so initially I was going to go with Ricky Fowler as an underachiever, but then I was kind of thinking it should really be somebody that has just got like bags of talent and didn't really do anything with it, or could have done way better with the amount of talent they had. And I thought with Ricky Fowler, he might go behind. He might actually not be very good, and people just rate him too highly. So I went away from him. So I've gone for a guy with 5 PGA Tour wins, including 2 major championships, being the 91 PGA and the 95 Open, and that guy's Jon Daly. So yeah, just a crazy talented guy. I think all the guys on tour they recognise how good he was, but his lifestyle and habits just completely prevented him from reaching his full potential, in my opinion. I think he was kicked off tour in '93 for walking off the golf course. He also chucked his scorecard at the scorecard hut in one event and got kicked off. Entered rehab in '93 for alcohol, and I think he said his win in '94, which I think was his 4th win on tour, that was actually his first sober win. So I mean, the guy just played pissed, and I think we've probably all done it in the past, and I mean, it's definitely not the best way to get the best out of your abilities, for sure.
I've seen a major play after a big night at Crisis.
Yeah,
not pretty.
I've got a lot of similarities to Jon Daly, to be honest.
You have actually.
I got a very wobbly chassis. I'm no stranger to.
You got the fade too.
Yeah, I've got a similar haircut. I was
talking about the flight, but sure.
Right. Yeah.
One thing you don't do though is hit it as far as him.
I don't hit it as far as him yet, but
He's not got 2 majors either.
No.
That's pretty impressive.
Soon,
but yeah, the stories of like Jon Daly would frequently be out until like 7 a.m. in the morning, just absolutely hammered, and he'd have like an 8 o'clock tea time, and he'd just turn up and just play the round completely hungover.
And probably shoot 62.
Yeah, exactly. And then he would score decent scores. I mean, for somebody to do that, you've got to be like ridiculously talented, and surely you must be able to win more than 5 times on tour with that talent. I think he's actually said he has 35 to 40 beers a day.
Yeah.
Which is a joke. He eats like ridiculous amounts of M&Ms and Skittles.
I think no, these are bottles of Bud Light. These are not.
Yeah, but still, like 40 beers a day. I don't care what it is. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I think he's not Andre the Giant though.
No. Yeah, that's not our podcast though.
Yeah. No,
Did anybody see the Jon Daly documentary?
No, I haven't. No.
I think it's like an ESPN 30 for 30. But anyway, like, and then I think it talks about one of the rounds at the LA Open. He was playing. He started out on the back 9. Was playing bad, so at the turn he went in the clubhouse, chugged like 5 beers, and then he walked out and played the front 9 like 4 under after that.
That does sound like it, I will say.
Yeah.
Legendary for his pool parties as well, despite the sloppy rig.
Yeah.
With the Hooters girls.
And his crazy shorts and pants nowadays.
Yeah. How many wives has he had?
I'm not actually sure. In the research, I didn't find that out.
Probably like 3 or 4.
There used to be Henry VIII kind of guy.
Geez, I know girls like a project, but that is a serious bit of that's a serious project to take on, Jon Daly. You have to see 3 wives go through the go through the mill before you, I have to question the sanity of that decision.
Yeah. There's another story of Daly as well. I think he was after a round. I think it was the LA Open or something, and he'd played his round early in the morning, and he'd got his friends and family round. They were just sitting in the clubhouse having a few beers, and I think Tiger walked past, and Daly tried to get Tiger to have a beer with him, and Tiger like refused kindly and said, "Oh, sorry, I've got to go to practice round." And like 3 hours later, I think Tiger came back from the practice ground, and Daly said, "Come on, mate, you've been practicing for 3 hours. Just have a drink." And I think Tiger said, like, if I had as much talent as you, John, I'd be doing exactly the same as you, but I don't have that talent. So he just went off, was in the gym for another 2 hours, and it just shows you the difference in mentality between Woods and Daly. Like, one guy was just sitting there drinking probably for like 8 hours straight, and Woods is there grinding away.
I still think Woods had the last lap.
And I think they actually got together the next.
Daly had more
day.
wives. Yes.
That's more payouts for those boys, though, I think.
Yeah.
I think you've got a lot of good eyewitness accounts as to how much talent he had there, and why he could have achieved more. So.
And his son looks like a bit of a star for the future. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Looks just like him.
Yeah, it shaped everything.
Mm-hmm.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as they say.
I think I need to do a bit more research if I'm going to back him as one of my horses through the post-coronavirus golf world, but I'll give it a look.
Well, Jon Daly's son.
Yeah.
He looks pretty good, to be fair.
Little John. We'll call him
Little John, yeah.
What are we talking? Is he on the Corn Ferry yet, or?
I think
he's still a junior golfer.
Gives it a rip though.
Yeah. Also, a shout out to Kim Jong-il as the biggest underachiever in golf. Father of the North Korean dictator who shot 38 at Pyongyang golf course.
Really?
With 11 hole-in-ones.
I just saw that.
If you can do that and not achieve anything in the game, then I mean you have to be classed as somewhat of an underachiever.
Same amount of majors as Lee Westwood.
I think national service was his calling. So
yeah.
R.I.P. Kim Jong-un.
Well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, rest in peace.
There was a spot in the World Golf Hall of Fame waiting for him if he ever found the time.
Anyway, boys, moving on. I'll move on to another Korean American. This guy has got 3 PGA Tour wins before he was 25. At the time he did that, only Woods, Scott Garcia and Phil Mickelson had also done that before they were 25 in the previous 30 years. He came third in the 2010 Masters, got 7 top 20s in majors between the years 2007 to 2011. 2009 Masters set a record for the most birdies in a round when he hit 11 birdies round Augusta in his second round. This guy needs absolutely no introduction. It is AK Anthony Kim.
Like, this guy can play 11 birdies at Augusta.
11 birdies at Augusta.
What did he shoot? 59?
I don't have the stat for that. But yeah,
he could
I
have
think
shot
his bounce back ability must have been high that day. I think
could have had an eagle or two.
Birdie. Yeah, I don't know where he finished. 2.5 points at Valhalla in the 2008 Ryder Cup. Like, tipped as a star for the PGA Tour, definite star for the future. But we don't see too much of Anthony Kim these days, unfortunately, unless you follow the various golf Instagram pages in his memory. He
gets more remixes than any other tour player, I'd say.
He does, but we're focusing our achievements on majors and PGA Tour wins. This guy, like, I really think he could have definitely got at least 10 PGA Tour wins and would have been candidates for majors. But in June 2012, he had surgery on his Achilles, was meant to be out for a year, and he's not played a tournament since. He's played a couple of charity events in 2016, but in April 2014, the Golf Channel reported that AK doesn't even play golf anymore, not even recreational golf. And in 2019, he told a fan his game was non-existent. So this guy quite literally fell out of love with the game.
Actually, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's a pretty good disappearance act, really.
It's a great disappearance act. It's quite amazing to see a guy with such fame at an early age, and such legendary status on the tour. I know Rory misses him. I saw an interview with that. Rory saying the tour was a better place with AK on it.
I was saying, I think he's become more legendary in his absence.
Yeah,
it definitely adds to the mystique of Anthony Kim, I would say.
100%.
But he was so like I showed you the list of players he was in company with. 3 PGA Tour wins before he was 25. Also 7 top 20s in majors between the years 2007 to 2011. Like this guy could play. And I mean, he's not even playing golf anymore, I think.
Third most famous player to be sponsored by Nike golf equipment. Behind Tiger and
Rory.
Tiger and Stuart Sink.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't give Stuart Sink that one.
Brooks is with
Brooks,
Nike as
yeah,
well.
I put Brooks up there. I think Captain America, Fatty Paddy, he's definitely up there.
Should we talk about how AK is getting paid to not play golf? Is that public knowledge, or is that?
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought, didn't he get a 10 million payout for not being able to come back on tour for his Achilles?
Yeah,
he blew it on just hookers and cocaine, didn't he?
I think that one's a bit. That one's a bit of a tale, but
it kind of makes sense though. I mean, I think if he plays another professional round of golf, then he has to give that back that 10 million, and he doesn't have it.
I think the hookers and coke is probably imagined in someone's bedroom. Really,
well,
I think
he somehow spent 10 million pounds in a short.
And even the 10 million's a bit of a statement. Like no one knows when he decided he wasn't going to play again, or said he couldn't play again to the insurance company. He would have had the option for like monthly payouts the rest of his life until the end of his golfing career, which I'd imagine the insurance company would say is 45 to 50. Or else he can take a lump sum. And I'd imagine, as much of a wild young lad he seems to be, I can't imagine he'd go for the lump sum.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but it's a much better story, isn't it?
There were rumours he was seen sleeping homeless on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah,
I've got nothing.
If he,
that's what I heard on the grapevine, but I don't know what that's true.
I wonder if he's gotten a job since then, since he can't play the PGA Tour.
I think he sells insurance now.
How ironic.
He's done the full circle.
Yeah. In April 2019, he was seen, I think, in LA or San Francisco, by a guy from Golf Channel, and that's when he said his game was non-existent. But who knows what he was doing there? He wasn't in Vegas homeless. That's all we know.
On the off chance that he did take the lump sum and he's paid it, if he could just tread water for a few more years, this all exclusive interview is going to be worth serious money when he does come out with it.
Yeah.
That's going to be
make a Netflix documentary.
Yeah,
10-part documentary about it.
No crime.
I can't think of anything I'd like more than a 10-part series on Netflix.
On AK.
They've been secretly filming him for the last 12 years.
That could be a calling for the pod. We track him down and we film a behind the scenes documentary on his story.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to be able to afford the lump sum he wants.
Just got to cough up a few million for the rights.
Yeah, I think no matter how well our mission for funding at the Riverside goes.
Right, boys. It's as much as we'd love to talk about Anthony Kim all night, we'll move on to Fargy's underachiever.
So my underachiever has a career best 246th amateur in the world, but instead decided to go to Nottingham to study, and it is Joshua Martin. No, I'm joking. My guy is a one-time PGA Tour winner. Best position in the Masters was second in 2012. arguably has the most picture-perfect swing, and that is Louis Oosthuizen. He's always that sort of guy that I always thought back in the day watching events that he would be the guy to come through the pack and win, but just never seemed to stump up when it came down to it. He's first strokes gained putting in 2020, which to me, I would have always thought with the swing that he has, putting would be what lets him down. So the fact that he's first strokes gained putting, and he has that swing, and he's only won once on the PGA Tour, screams to me that he is an underachiever. What do you boys think?
I agree. I mean, he could have had a few more majors as well, couldn't he? I think back to that Masters 2012 when Bubba beat him in a playoff.
Yeah, that's when he came second.
Yeah, that could have easily been his, and I think he lost in a playoff again at St Andrews in 2015 in the Open Championship. So and for somebody of his caliber to only have one PGA Tour win, it's that's incredible.
Yeah,
I think you could stick him personally up. I'd stick him straight in the Charles Howell category. He's got his such picture perfect golf. He's got his major, and now he's just kind of drifted into kind of middle-aged, happy family life. I feel like he doesn't play that many events. He never seems like that much going on. Very unflamboyant.
Is it me, or is he playing a lot on the European Tour?
He's 19th in the world. Yeah. He's not doing that badly.
I think Oosthuizen has achieved more than Charles Howell. Charles Howell's just kind of sat on the PGA Tour all of his life. At least Oosthuizen, his worldwide wins
I think
probably double.
Yeah,
Oosthuizen is a very rich man's Charles Howell III, but they're of the same ilk.
Yeah.
9 European Tour wins, and he's finished second in the Masters, the PGA Championship, the US Open, and he won the Open obviously in 2010.
Yeah, he's
St Andrews.
He's Charles Howell, but got a major win and
just better.
Generally better in majors.
Yeah.
Do you think Foggy maybe could have matched, maybe fellow South African Gary Player with sort of major wins?
Well, I definitely think he's got the game for it. I mean, you just have to watch him to know that he's got the game for it. But
I'd probably chuck Adam Scott in that category as well.
Oh yeah, so I think Adam Scott's been boldly leading that category out for years now. But
Adam Scott, perhaps technique. Louis Oosthuizen and Ernie Els perhaps are in the same sort of category.
Yeah, I was quite interested.
I don't know about Ernie Els.
What, the Big Easy? It looks like he's hitting 20% every time, and he bombs it.
Well, you're saying him as an overachiever?
No, Ernie Els is
like a beautiful swing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, I would agree with that. I thought you were saying he was underachiever.
No, I'd never say that about Big Ernie.
Louis Oosthuizen's now 37. I think if there ever was a time for him to kick on, it would be now. I think
it's too late.
I was quite interested to hear these first in the strokes gained putting this year, because I feel like that is the area that does let him down over the years. So
it might be quite a small sample size there, Rory.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
Also, he could be unlucky, a bit like the much talked about Martin Keimer, in the sense that he was possibly trending right before coronavirus, getting ready for another major win before all this
maybe
came crashing.
Could have won the Grand Slam this year.
Yeah,
that was Sung Jae was going to win the next 10 weeks.
Yeah,
I think we agree.
He was definitely going to play because he cuts his teeth in.
Exactly. Yeah.
He does cut his teeth.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No objections from me to Louis Oosthuizen as an underachiever in golf.
Appreciate it.
Rory, we'll move on to you. You're the final underachiever.
Yeah. So this week I've got a player who's probably got a bit more credibility than the aspiring golfers I've gone for in the last couple of weeks. Needs really no introduction. 5-time major champion, 44 PGA Tour wins across 27 years, including winning as an amateur. World number 2 several times. As I said, no introduction needed. Phil Mickelson. So
Hang on, Rory. You wait. So he's won 44 times on tour, and yet you think he's underachieved?
You know what? I'm glad you asked, Josh. Right, because obviously, on the surface, how can he be an underachiever with winning so much? And then I would turn your attention to I got 5 majors, one short of the Grand Slam, of course, the US Open, an event in which he's come second 6 times. On top of that, he's got 1 second at the PGA. He's got an iconic second, a real kind of microcosm for his career in my eyes. The second at Troon, where he lost out to Stenson, but I think it was 3 shots at the end. Stenson held like a 40-footer on the last, but they were neck and neck all day. And but Mickelson coming second that week was 11 shots ahead of young JB in third. I think that really shows like just how much better he is than 99% of what's going on. But because of what, so one or two people outside of his control are doing, it just reduces his career to far less than it really is. I think obviously essentially what I'm getting at is like during the Tiger era, he's really been kind of thrust into that second fiddle role. I really think I just think he's so close to being in that Tiger Jack category, or at least giving us kind of like, I feel like when young golfers come through, we kind of want to see how close they'll get to the Tiger Jack category in terms of majors. And I really think Phil Mickelson could have been pushing the boat out to 8, 9, 10 majors so easily.
If he was in a different era to Tiger.
Yeah, I really do. And just even the Stenson win, just not Tiger, but how unlucky to beat third place by 11 shots and still lose. To be that much, it's just shocking.
He hit 65 on the last day, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
you can't go out 2 off the. I think he was 2 off the lead because they were even going into the second hole because Mickelson birdied it and Stenson bogeyed it, and he goes on to hit a 65 and doesn't win.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I hate to correct you, but it was on the final day. I think Stenson was 1 head going in, and on the very first hole, Stenson I think fluffed his second shot and 3 stabbed for a bogey, and Mickelson nearly held his second shot, spun it back to about a foot, and he was 1 shot ahead early doors. I think it was around. It was more. I think it was Stenson's. I think Stenson birdied 3 or 4 of the last 5 or like 5, 6.
Stenson shot a 63 that day, which at the time was the lowest round ever in a major championship. Just the whole Phil thing. He's just gotten so unlucky. Could you not say though, Rory, that in an era where you've got probably the greatest golfer of all time, to have a career that Mickelson's had is just made all the more impressive. The fact that he had to compete against the best.
I'm presenting my case as one of golf's all-time greats.
Yeah,
I think, and as well, I was going on last week. I think like when I think of a player, I think of like how many Tiger moments can I think of? How many Phil Mickelson moments? And the amount of, I was watching the other day, when he had 2 eagles in a row in the Masters, eagle 13, held out on 14, and then got bones to tend the flag. I think it was on 15. Nearly held out from like 100 yards, hit it to inches for 3 eagles.
The guy, he's a walking highlight reel, isn't he?
Yeah, that's literally it. And just I don't think I've ever seen him hit a shot, or I don't think I've ever seen him hit a shot in the flesh. To be honest, I remember I had at that Open at Troon, I was hoping to get a glimpse on the range, and the wind was off the right that day for the range, and Phil, whenever the wind's off the right, Phil goes down to the other end and hits balls back because he doesn't want to hit that. He just doesn't like warming up with wind off the right. Same for righties, I suppose. Wind off the left. So I've never got to see it, but I just really think he could have asserted himself as like a kind of a serial major winner, if you like, in that category.
On the contrary, Rory, do you not think 44 wins or however many he's had, 5 majors, pretty good for a guy who doesn't really know what the fairway is?
Yeah, I think as you guys know, I do really like PGA Tour wins is a bit of a futile stat for me. I really look at the majors, and I think for him to only have 5, considering how good he is, and it's just an absolute crime. I would also like to highlight certain allure of his off-course antics. Obviously, with you boys know the stories of kind of Callaway sponsorships and Vegas and whatever. And also found out in my research for this that he was investigated by the FBI and the SEC in 2014 for insider trading.
Really?
Yeah, or an insider trading scandal. But yeah, anyway,
cleared.
Doesn't take away from one of, as I was saying, one of the best PGA Tour careers ever. 27 years, 44 wins, 5 majors. Could have been way far more in my eyes, but
some great golf course attire as well down the years.
Yeah. I didn't like. I was watching some Muirfield, and I really hated the hat he won that in. He went back to that awful visor, but.
You guys hear about the match, Phil and Tom Brady versus Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning?
Yeah.
I don't think they've decided on a date or a course yet.
I think my favorite Phil story ever was I don't know, he was on No Laying Up, I think, a golf journalist. It was just after he played that match with Tiger. It was at Jordan Spieth's wedding, and this journalist is saying, he's had a few drinks, he's feeling a bit confident at the wedding, and he sees Phil Mickelson. This is just after he obviously paid $20 to watch the pay-per-view game. So he goes up to Phil Mickelson and he says, "Boy, Phil, I want my money back. You're telling me that you and Tiger, 2 of the best fucking golfers ever, play 18-hole match and you can't make 2 fucking birdies between you?" He's like, "No, I'm not having that. Give me my fucking money." Phil Mickelson pulls out like a wad of cash, like takes 100 and goes, he's like, "Buddy, I just earned 1,000 of these. Take this and go fuck yourself." Which is just, I think, I know Josh as well, you would say Matt says he's a fake guy, but I really do. I think he's provided enough entertainment. He's given us enough over the years to justify being a bit of a twat. Behind the scenes, as long as he's not a twat to my face, I'm okay with it.
He's great to the fans. There's no doubt. Outwardly.
Yeah.
J-Mart, who have you got for that match?
Brady's got a decent swing.
Hopefully Woods and Manning. Hopefully Woods can get some payback, revenge on him this time. But yeah, who's to know? I guess Woods is feeling better if he's ready to schedule a match.
Why did they go those two? I thought it was Tony Romo who was the one who had a bit of game.
Romo's like a plus handicap.
I think.
How has Tony Romo not won a major yet? Is what I want to know.
I think just because Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are like 2 of the best quarterbacks of all time, and Mickelson, Woods, 2 of the best to ever do it. So they're all like similar age. So I just think that would be more intriguing than like a Tony Romo who hasn't really done a whole lot in his career.
I think I'd prefer to watch Mickelson and Woods on an American football field as quarterbacks. To be honest.
Yeah.
We can arrange that.
Yeah, Woods' back holds up.
Maybe that's the playoff if they tie the 18-hole match.
Yeah.
They have an accuracy contest.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let us know in the comments who you thought was the biggest overachiever.
If anyone outside of
we did get one comment on
watched
the
it,
last video, so it'll be great. We get 2 on the next one. But yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Hopefully, cheers.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.